ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीरितं कल्मषापहम् श्रवणमङ्गलम् श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना. The Master with the Brahmo devotees. So we will continue from the section where we have concluded in the last class that the idea of the various stages of the samadhi as was described by Sri Ramakrishna, we will continue after that. So what Sri Ramakrishna is saying, the nature of Brahman cannot be described. About it, one remains silent. Who can explain the infinite in words? However high a bird may soar, there are regions higher still. What do you say? So, the concept of this avang manasa gocharam, the ultimate reality is beyond our speech and beyond our mind. To understand this, our Revered Swami Bhuteshanandaji, the 12th president, used to give a very nice example. Say, suppose a lady, a village lady has been married, and after marriage went to his in-laws' house, and after 1 year again he is returning. She returns to her house, to her parents' house with a child. Now she has a child, now she has a mother. Now her friends, other friends who were yet to be married or have children, now they came to meet their friend, and they asked that what is it, how it feels to be a mother, to have a child, how it feels like. Now she tried to explain first, and then she remained silent. And what she told is something which all the mothers will agree, that it is something which I cannot describe. I feel it. I cannot describe. So it is experienceable but cannot be describable. You cannot explain it. But it is experience. It is not something that you don't experience it. And another thing, it cannot be quantified. Now, if she says, how much you love a child? I love. How much? Quantity, you can never quantify it. You can never be quantified. So these are the two things. It cannot be described and it cannot be quantified. Even from the mother's love for the child, we can understand that it is something which is experienceable but not describable, and you cannot quantify it. If someone asks how much, I cannot say. So these two ideas you will find is been explained by Sri Ramakrishna as the one who has experienced the ultimate reality, the Brahman, in the depth of his meditation in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So what he's saying, the nature of Brahman cannot be described. So undescribable. It cannot be described. About it one remains silent. So that is one characteristic. Who can explain the infinite in words? So that's the first characteristic. The second, it is not quantifiable. You cannot quantify it. However high a bird may soar, there are regions higher still. What do you say? So these two aspects of the realization has been spoken of so nicely by Sri Ramakrishna. And then the preacher who was questioning Sri Ramakrishna, he responds, yes sir, the preacher, yes sir, it is so stated in the Vedanta philosophy. Master, once a salt doll went to the ocean to measure its depth, but it could not come back to give a report. According to one school of thought, sages like Sukadeva saw and touched the ocean of Brahman but did not plunge into it. So the various aspects of that realization is spoken of by Sri Ramakrishna. He is the one who has experienced. That's why so clearly, so vividly, so poignantly he can describe the experience, that which is not describable, but certain aspects he is speaking of. So first he spoke, it is undescribable. Second, he told it is not quantifiable, you cannot quantify it. Now third, he is saying a very interesting thing, that experience is something where you lose the sense of locality. Now see, we can say that when I close my eyes, somehow I manage to close my ears, I stop my total interaction with the world. All the sense, I just stop. Maybe I am in such a room, I am placed in such a room which is completely dark, no sound can enter there, it is locked, and there is no question of any touch, sound, smell. All the five senses has been obscured there. Very interesting, if I am sitting there, I have no perceptions with the external world, no interaction with the external world. But can you get rid of the idea of your limited individuality? The constant, the idea that I, which is emanating from within you. Do you ever feel that doesn't have a locality? You feel that you are sitting in a particular place, though the world has vanished for you. You have been placed in such a room, it is totally dark, totally insulated from sound, totally insulated from all other senses. There is no smell, there is no question of touch. So my interaction with the world has stopped. But the I, which is emanating from the bottom of my heart, I know has a locality. That's why Swami Vivekananda used to say, what is the difference between a jiva, an ordinary being, and the Brahman, or the man who has realized the ultimate reality, or even Ishwar. Very nicely he is saying that an ordinary being is a circle which has a center, but whose circumference is nowhere, infinite. Why? That with my mind, I am sitting here, with my mind I can travel anywhere. If any scientists say that that is the last galaxy which has been observed by all the sophisticated telescope of NASA, beyond that, nothing has been yet visualized. We couldn't observe anything beyond that. But with my mind, I can think there is something most probably even beyond that. There is no limitation to our imagining something. It can, with our imagination, we can extend it to any extent. We cannot put a limit to it. But at the same time, I cannot jump out of myself. It is just like trying to get rid of your shadow. Can I get rid of my shadow? If I say I will jump so that the shadow remains, I get out of it. No. Shadow always accompanies me. Similarly, my ego always accompanies me. As long as I have not gone to the realization, I can never get rid of the idea of the ego, that this limited body-mind complex is the me. It has a center. Though there is infinite expanse beyond it, but I, as with my individuality, have a center, locality. But here what is saying? Very nice. The moment you go to that realization, that amness doesn't vanish. It is not something where you totally lose awareness of yourself. The amness is still there. I am. But somehow I feel that amness has lost the locality. You will find a wonderful incident in the life of Swami Vivekananda. As a young boy when he was visiting Ramakrishna, the young Naren, you'll find a wonderful thing. What? That Naren was pestering Sri Ramakrishna for samadhi. Again and again he was pestering Ramakrishna for samadhi. And one day it so happened that he sat for meditation. It was in the Shampukur. Sri Ramakrishna was sick. Because of cancer, he was bedridden, he couldn't get up. And now this aspiring young devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, the would-be sannyasins, they thought of leading a very intense spiritual life in the presence of Sri Ramakrishna. And one day Naren was in this Shampukur Bhati and he was meditating. And suddenly the Swami Advaitananda, Buddha Gopala, he was sitting beside him. He felt that Naren has as if became like a log wood. There was no sensation as if. He was so deep in his meditation. And then, after some time, when he came out of meditation, he started shouting, "Where is my hand? Where is my feet? I don't find. Where is my hand? Where is my feet? Where is my body?" And this Buddha Gopal, the future Advaitanandaji, he thought that Naren most probably is going to die. He's going to die. And he ran to Sri Ramakrishna to just say that Naren most probably is going to die. He's behaving in a very... So sorry, there was some disruption. I will continue from where we were. We have just stopped our discussion. So this third thing, that first we told that the first aspect which Sri Ramakrishna was describing, that their experience of the Brahman cannot be described. The second was that it cannot be quantified. And the third, you lose the sense of locality. As we were saying, that example, that experience of Naren when he went for the first time, in that experience of Samadhi, Nirvikalpa Samadhi, that he was aware of his amness, but he was not in any way aware of his body, which constitutes his locality. So you become as if something non-local. That amness is still there. That's, we were saying that as Swami Vivekananda used to describe, an ordinary individual is a circle which has a center but which has no circumference. With my mind, I can travel anywhere, but I cannot jump out of myself because of my association with the ego. I cannot jump out of myself. But when I go to that state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, what happens? Still I am a circle. Still it has no circumference anywhere, but its center is everywhere. That's what Swami is saying. The center is everywhere. Actually, the word Brahma means Bri. From the Bri Dhatu, the word Brahman came. That which is Brihat. At present, I have the idea that I am this limited individuality centered around this body-mind complex. When I go to that state, that amness is still there, but that amness has lost its locality. It is as if beyond time-space causation, it is all-pervading. Even Buddha, you will find when he went to the state of nirvana, what he is describing? That his head is as if touching the Himalayas, his feet is touching the ocean. And with his arms, he's as if he's embracing the entire world. So there also we find the idea of all-pervasiveness, the losing of the sense of locality. The amness is there, but that amness has lost its locality. So these are very important, because generally we think that we go to a state something like coma, that we as if become like veggies. Like a vegetable doesn't respond when you put a knife. If on a cabbage, if you put a knife, it is not going to respond. Do we become something inert? No. So these all speaks of that state where I cannot describe that experience. It is not quantifiable, and this amness loses its locality. And that's the idea which Sri Ramakrishna is saying. Once a salt doll went to the ocean to measure its depth, but it could not come back to give a report. And that's why as the one who come back, that speaks of what? He has not merged in that so-called Brahman. He is coming back. So that's what speaks of, that he has touched the shore, he has touched the water, but he is still on the shore. He has not simply got down in it. Because Shukadeva came back from that experience of Samadhi, is coming back. That wonderful story that as Sri Ramakrishna is indicating the name of Shukadeva, we will relate that story. That Shukadeva was in Samadhi, deep Samadhi. But from there he came back. Why he came back? Because he had a mission. Actually, it's not he, his father. Vyasa had a mission. He wanted to preach the Bhagavata to the entire humankind. Now, this Bhagavata describes the divine Leela of Krishna. And where there is a Rasa Leela is also there. Now, for ordinary human being with the impure mind can never relate to the pure divine communion of Krishna and the gopis. It's a very spiritual. It's very pure. When we read those words, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, if you eat radish, you belch radish. So as we with our impurity try to relate to that, we will be belching radish. That smell which comes from within, and that will pollute, that actually the smell is coming from within. But I think the world smells like that radish. When I belch radish, I think everything smells like radish. But actually it is I who am belching. So if I am impure, with an impure mind, when I am trying to relate to that, the extreme, sublime spiritual communion of God and the devotee, as expressed in the Rasa Leela, in the communion of Krishna with the gopis, we won't understand. We will take it like an ordinary human love. So now, after composing the Bhagavatam, Vyasa thought that it has to be, the message of this Bhagavat has to be propagated by someone who is extremely pure. He must be the sannyasi of the sannyasin. He must be a very pure soul. Otherwise people won't understand. When a pure soul tries to relate, then people will understand. Yes, it must be having some much higher meaning. So now, where to get such a pure soul? Now Vyasa remembered his own son, Shukadeva. The stories are very nice, that how Bhagavata was propagated. Now, when Shukadeva was born, it's a very nice story, that when he was born, he wouldn't come out from his mother's womb. For years, for 18 years, he was there. Why? Because of his past samskaras, because of his past latent impression, he was already a renunciate. The thought of taking birth was something terrifying for him. Again, I have to intermingle with the world. So it was not willing. It was in the mother's womb for 18 years. And when it came out from its mother's womb, he took birth. He was a young boy of 18. And Vyasadeva was seeing his son was highly naturally. Any father will be attached. A young boy, very handsome. He has taken birth, and Vyasa was going to embrace his own son. But the moment Shukadeva was born, he was full of renunciation. Immediately the idea was there, this samsara is going to engulf me. In the words of Ramakrishna, he was like the Chataka bird. The Chataka bird story, that it flies very high up in the sky, and it will lay its egg while flying high up in the sky. And when the egg starts falling, in the mid-year, the egg will hatch. And the fledglings, the birds which comes out, it realizes that I am going to die if I fall on the earth. And before touching the ground, it starts flying again on the sky. So Shukadeva is like the Chataka, that when the moment he is born, he feels this world will ensnare me. And he starts running. And Shukadeva and Vyasa, his father, because of his paternal love, affection, he started running after him, saying, oh my son, running after him. Now, Shukadeva, as a young boy, when he was running, he passed through a reservoir where all the apsaras, the celestial nymphs, they were having a deep there. They were bathing in that reservoir. As they were bathing, naturally they were not wearing any clothes. And this young boy, Shukadeva, when he was running by the side of that reservoir, these nymphs, this so-called celestial beauties, they never cared for. They in no way felt embarrassed. And now following Shukadeva, when Vyasa came, he's an old man now. Seeing him, all these apsaras, they immediately started trying to just got up on the shore and tried to again wear the clothes. Now Vyasa was very much surprised that just now my young boy, he ran. He was running by the side of this reservoir. Seeing him, these nymphs never felt ashamed. I am an old man. Seeing me, they are getting ashamed. So now Vyasa asks these nymphs that how come? That my son just now, he was running through this way and you never feel embarrassed, and seeing me, an old man, you are embarrassed. And then the nymphs, what they told is something that was something revealing to Vyasa. What's the thing that they told? That see, your son doesn't have even a trace of lust in his mind. That's why seeing him, we never felt ashamed. Just the way you will find we never feel ashamed when I am just in presence of a newly born infant. Do we have any such sense of shame? No. Because as that small child is innocent, is yet to have any sense of the idea of gender or anything, we never feel ashamed in front of the small child. So this Shukadeva is something like that. His mind is pure. But Vyasa, in spite of the fact that you are highly spiritually evolved, but still there is a trace of worldliness in your mind. It is still there in your mind. So seeing you, we got embarrassed.
I didn't understand that.
Again, it is disturbing. So seeing that, that's why we are so much embarrassed seeing you. But your son is spotless. Now Vyasa realized that who he was chasing. And then he realized it is fruitless to chase for such a son. So he came back. He desisted from following his son. And years passed by. There was no news of Shukadeva. Now after writing this Bhagavatam, now Vyasa again thought of his son. Not because that he wanted him to be by his side because of this paternal affection. No. Now he has a mission that I want a pure soul who is going to propagate this message. Otherwise people won't understand. So now he was in search of Shukadeva. Why we are saying this story, then you will understand that why Sri Ramakrishna is saying that Shukadeva saw and touched the ocean of Brahman but did not plunge into it. Just to explain that, we are bringing this story. So now, seeing that he was in search of Shukadeva. Now he knew one thing, that if he sends some messenger and with a message that Vyasa is in search for you, he will never come back. So he devised a plan. What's the plan? That he composed a very beautiful small a paragraph of a hymn. Varha pirang natavaravapu, this karnayo karnikaram. So I'm not reciting the entire verse. The meaning is, it is describing the beauty of Krishna. That Krishna as a small child is returning is returning to Gokula. He was tending the cows. In the morning he went out with the cows to the forest with the other gopas, with the other cowherd boys. And now it's evening, he's coming back. The cows are just, with their hoofs, they are raising the dust. And the Krishna is returning. And as a small child, he's full of mischief. What he's doing? Most probably with some forest flowers, he has made a earring. Karnayo karnikaram. It's very interesting. This Bhagavat's grammar is also very interesting. In 2 years, you cannot have only one ring. So, but in the sloka it says, in both his ears, he was having only one earring. So what he was doing just as a small child, he has made one earring with the flowers, the wild flowers. Once he was putting in one ear, opening it and putting it on the other ear. Just the way the child do. Just having some childish play. And he was returning, making the soil of Gokula pure by his footprints. And all the gopas were following him. All were so happy being in companion with Krishna. So this is the idea behind that wonderful verse. It is in the Bhagavatam. So now Vyasa taught this verse to some cowherd boys and told them, go inside the forest. Deep inside the forest you will find a sage, a saint, meditating, deep in meditation. So you have to go and just chant this verse in his presence. And you will find he will come out of his meditation. He will come out of his meditation. And he will be very much eager to know who has composed this verse. He will want to meet him. He will ask that, you know that who has composed this verse, a wonderful verse? I want to meet him. Never say my name. You just say, you want to meet him? Well, follow us. And that's how Shukadeva followed the cowherd boys, and that's how Vyasa again got reunited with his own son Shukadeva. Now not because of his parental affection, but that mission to propagate the message of Bhagavata to the world. And it is through Shukadeva the message of Bhagavatam was spread to the world. So this is the story we find, that how Bhagavata was propagated. We find it in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, this story is mentioned. Now with keeping this story in the mind, we will find an interesting thing, that what Sri Ramakrishna is saying, that if you are merged in Samadhi, like a salt doll, you are supposed to be merged in it. As Sri Ramakrishna says, that if a man goes into that Nirvija Nirvikalpa Samadhi, what happens? That he will become motionless and his body will fall off in 21 days. But here we find Shukadeva is coming back. So he has not merged with the Absolute. So that's why we brought this entire story here. That Shukadeva was in deep Samadhi, but hearing the name of Krishna, he again came back to this world to propagate the message of Bhagavatam to the world. So it is something like avatara. So these ideas, we have to have a very clear concept of this. You know that what's the idea behind this? That coming down from that state? Now, just take an ordinary mind, our ordinary mind, that we are trying to meditate and keep my mind on my Ishta. It is so difficult. I find the distractions comes, other thoughts come, and my concentration is gone. With lot of practice, I can increase the longevity of my meditation. I can keep the mind ekagra in Ishtavritti for long, but still my mind is not pure. Distraction comes. It comes and breaks the meditation. We all experience that. But if you go on practicing, a time will come when all the distractions has fallen, have been washed off. Now the habitual state of my mind is ekavritti, that one thought. But if I continue with that, a time will come, even that one thought will fall off. That's why there are many ways to understand. A very simple way to understand what we say, that in this world, wherever there is a flow, there must be a polarity. In this world, everything is flowing. Even the mind is flowing. And flow means there is a polarity. Like when the water is flowing, there must be difference in level. Only from higher level to the lower level, the water can flow. If both the levels are same, water flow stops. Current is flowing. There must be difference in potential. If both the ends have same potential, no current. Similarly, our mind is mind because it is constantly jumping from thought to thought. If by assiduous practice we can keep the mind in one thought, and that also it's highly intense. That previously my mind was having the thought of A, B, C, D. Now it is thinking A, and that also the frequency is very high. Then what happened? The polarity has been resolved. Then the mind ceases to be mind. We go beyond the mind collapses. And the mind is like a prism. When the white light falls on the prism, it breaks into the spectrum of 7 colors. Similarly, the conscious principle, which is behind the mind, coming in association with the mind, breaks up into the spectrum of this world of name and form. Now, when with that one thought, the mind has ceased, what has happened? This spectrum falls off. No more there. And what happens? Where it has gone, it has merged with the white light. It has merged with the consciousness alone. So if you are not coming back to the mind, you remain merged in that consciousness. But very interesting, just at present, the way my mind is full of distractions, now and then for a short time goes to that state of ekavritti, ishtavritti. In that state also the same thing happens. The mind is full of ishtavritti, all the distractions has fallen off. By assiduous practice, he has gone to that state. But because when that one thought becomes very intense, immediately the mind collapses for the time being. But very interesting, that ekavritti is now saturating his subconscious mind. That again pops up to break the state of that restriction, that nirodha. It breaks that, but no more distractions. It is only the ishtavritti that comes and breaks that. So that's why you will find even in the life of Ramakrishna, whenever he is going into samadhi, at night, he has taught whoever stays with him if it is his nephew or even Holy Mother for 8-9 months, she stayed with Ramakrishna. And she used to find Ramakrishna is going into deep samadhi. She used to get scared. And then Ramakrishna taught him, if you see me in such and such state, repeat such and such mantra. Very interesting. We use the mantra to concentrate our mind, to go to a higher state. And he is using the mantra to come down. He has went to a state beyond the mind, but his subconscious mind is still having those ekavritti, ishtavritti. So when you repeat that, holding on to that, he comes down. Otherwise he will merge. So Nirvikalpa Samadhi has two types. One is Nirvijaya Nirvikalpa and another is Savijaya Nirvikalpa. So for Shukadeva, for Ramakrishna, for all the avatars, out of their love for the humankind, to show that there is a existence far, far sublime than this world of senses. We have no knowledge about it. To show us the way, they keep that compassion in their heart. Ahaituki, without any, there's no selfish need for them. Just out of compassion, they come down. They keep that. They don't get rid of all the vrittis. They keep that sublime vritti with which they come down to propagate the message to the entire world. So when Sri Ramakrishna is saying that Shukadeva most probably has just touched the ocean of Brahman but didn't plunge into it, that doesn't mean he's just belittling him or seeing him. What he's actually saying, that out of compassion, it is out of compassion. He has a purpose. God has kept that ekavritti in his heart, because otherwise he will merge. He has a purpose, he has a mission. So with that, so he's not merging his mind absolutely. With that ekavritti, again and again he is coming back to the realm of this name and form to preach the message to the humankind. So now you will understand, these words apparently seem as if, Shukadeva was not that absolutely real. But he was realized. If he wants, he can easily merge into that absolute. But his father found that he has a certain purpose. His life has a certain purpose. He has a mission. For that, he is bringing him down from that state, not allowing him to merge in that absolute, so that he can propagate the Bhagavatam to the world. So this is the state of Savija Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And when you merge like a solder, that is the Nirvija Nirvikalpa Samadhi. How it happens? Just here. When my mind at present is concentrated for a small time, say just 4 or 5 minutes, I can keep my mind concentrated, and then all the distractions comes and breaks my concentration. So what I have to do? I have to go on meditating till my mind's all the distractions gets washed off, and I will find my hours of meditation is increasing. The quality of meditation increasing, and I can sit for long. That's why in one of the lectures, Swami Vivekananda mentions that what's the sign that you are progressing spiritually? That how long you can stay in that sublime thoughts. We find that after some time, my mind gets saturated. I cannot. I need some change. I have to come down. My mind will otherwise explode. But with my practice, I will find I can stay in that one state of one thought for longer and longer and longer period. And then at last what happens? Distractions falls off. This becomes my natural state. The same thing happens there. Those who once go to that state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, if they still pursue in their practice and want to stay in that state longer and longer and longer, then what is happening? That state of thoughtlessness, that is now saturating his so-called existence. And his ishtavritti is getting washed off. Ishtavritti is getting washed off. A time will come, there won't be any ishtavritti to bring his mind down. And that is the state of Nirvija Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That speaks of the soul which has merged with the Absolute. So now we will understand, that's why what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said is very interesting. That I don't want to be sugar, I want to test the sugar. Ami chini hote chai na, chini khete bhalobashi. So it speaks of the choice. That there are some who want to merge in the Absolute, well and good. But there are some who want to enjoy, who want to keep the distinction between you and me. God is there, I am. And I want to enjoy the bliss of communion. as per the choice. Whenever he finds his mind is going to that state, he will bring back again with the help of kirtan, singing, chanting, again to this state to enjoy the bliss of me and you. But both are liberated, because after all the distractions, the worldly attachments which gravitates us down to this worldly plane, that has washed away for both of them. So this both are liberated, whether he is a bhakta or that jnani, both are liberated. Both are okay. When a bhakta says that I don't want mukti, I want to be a devotee in whatever birth, in whatever state I may take birth. It's not that I want to just be liberated. Again, I may be born. But please, Lord, see that I never forget you. So here, what's the idea? The mind has been cleansed. He wants to be born not for worldly enjoyments, so that he can again enjoy the bliss of communion of the divine, being in certain embodiment. This idea we'll find Ramakrishna in some other context has mentioned very nicely. What? When Ravana was killed, now suddenly in Lanka they saw nothing is there, that all the Rakshasas has been killed. And suddenly they saw Ravana's mother was still alive, that old lady, Nikasha, she was alive. And Nikasha, seeing Rama, started running. And Lakshmana was very much surprised. She has lost all her children. And still she has so much attachment for life. All relatives, children she has lost. Seeing you, most probably she is scared of death, that she also will be killed by you. And she is running. Rama knew, Rama is Antaryami. He knows the mind, what's going on in the mind of each and every being. He is Antaryami. So he smiled. He said, why not you call him and ask that why she is running? And when Lakshmana followed her and at last got hold of her and asked, I'm so surprised that still you have so much attachment for life. All your sons have died, your relatives have died, and now still you are scared of death. And then what Nikasha said, is in the gospel, in some other context, Sri Ramakrishna is saying that. Nikasha is saying a very interesting thing. Yes, I want to live. As I have lived for such an advanced age, I could have seen so much of Rama's Leela. If I die, I cannot see anymore. I still want to live more, so that I can still enjoy this Rama's Leela more and more. So she also is a devotee in a way, that she wants to enjoy the divine sport of Rama, and that's why she wants to live. That's the idea of the devotee. That I don't want to merge. I want to live, not for the worldly pleasures, but to enjoy the bliss of the communion with the divine. So I don't want to be sugar, because you become the sugar. What is the joy in it? I want to test the sugar. So I want to maintain that idea, the distinction between you and me, and enjoy the sugar. So that's what, when Sri Ramakrishna is saying that Shukadeva was not merged, he is in no way belittling him. He's just saying that yes, that is also a state. You need not be merged for that. He will be speaking of that in some later paragraph. So we did not just bring it immediately, the discussion, where we find that he is speaking that also is a very high state, where your Ishta has become just like the crystal. He will give the example of the ocean. By your devotion, it becomes somewhere that iceberg. It becomes the ice. So devotion, by the devotion you create the form. And with the jnana, ice melts. It becomes one with the ocean. And then he's saying interesting thing, that there are some places where the ice never melts. It becomes like crystal, like sphatika. So that's what some devotees want to. They don't want to merge in the absolute. So now you will understand that these words of Sri Ramakrishna is coming from the depth of his realization. That's why not a single word in the gospel you will find which is simply a stray talk, not a single sentence. Swami Vivekananda used to say that Ramakrishna's words have even transcended the Vedas, the Vedanta. It appears to be so simple, but it is coming from the depth of his realization. He is speaking just in our tongue, in this language, but it is coming from the depth of the realization. That realization I don't have. So it becomes very difficult to relate to those words. So today's class we will just conclude with this example which we said so many times. That suppose a person have tasted the mango and he relates the taste of mango to a group of people who have never tasted the mango. He says mango is sweet and it has a nice flavor. Now all these people will think, oh, I have understood, because they have all tasted something sweet, they have all smelled something which has a nice fragrance, and they start relating these words with their available fund of experience. Some will say that mango is as sweet as molasses and it has a nice fragrance like jasmine. That's what he has experienced. He has never tasted mango. Someone will say, oh no, it is as sweet as honey and it has the fragrance of tuberose or rose. So now you find so varied opinions. Why? Because those who have heard those words, they have not experienced. They are trying to understand those words with their available fund of experience. Now you will find that why we the believers fight. We just believe in the words of the Prophet, but we have not yet in any way can relate to the realization. So that's why Swamiji is saying religion is realization. It is not mere belief. So unless we realize through our spiritual practice, even that gospel, the words are so simple. Many say it's so easy to understand gospel, but it is the most difficult thing to understand the gospel. The more you read the scriptures, the more you advance in your spiritual journey, the more you will find the layers of deep understanding in the simple words hidden in it. And you will find the meaning totally changes. Just by reading, apparently it appears Shukadeva is an ordinary soul. He hasn't attained that ultimate, though he has advanced spiritually but not attained the highest. But actually it means just the opposite. That he is like an avatar. He can merge, but out of compassion to, deliver the message of Bhagavatam to the humankind, he has kept that vritti. That's why when this cowherd boy goes and sings the name of Krishna, with the help of the name of Krishna, he has at last went to that state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, but he has not totally washed off the Ishtavritti. So now when he goes and chants the name of Krishna, holding on to that, again he comes down to preach the message of Bhagavata to the humankind. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Today there was a lot of interruption. Sorry for that. Hopefully we can join the two parts and upload the video. So thanking you all. We will conclude the discussion today. Namaskar.